Hi, everyone. This is Jillian from crowdfundinglawyers.net. This is our segment, People You Should Know. Before we get started and I introduce my special guest today, I want to remind you to sign up for Crowd Converge 2017 on February 2nd and 3rd. Today's special guest is Anthony Chara from Apartment Mentors. And Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jillian. How are you?
Very good. So tell us about Apartment Mentors, what you do, what kind of apartments you're investing in these days.
Well, Apartment Mentors, that's a big question. What do we do? So we do a couple different things. One of the things that I do is I actually teach people how to invest in apartment buildings, but I also invest in apartment buildings myself. And we invest in all kinds of different apartment buildings. We invest in ones that are running just fine. And we also invest in properties that are what we call value plays that need a lot of substantial work to bring them up to speed and to increase their value exponentially.
So if I'm looking for an apartment building, what should I be looking for?
Wow, that's a pretty broad question. There's a lot of stuff that you need to take into consideration. First off, you need to decide whether it's something that you're going to be doing yourself or if you're going to be doing it with partners. Of course, the big thing you need to find out first before you actually probably answer that question is, do you have the education that you need in order to go out and look for apartment buildings? And I know that's definitely a plug for myself, but you have to be educated. You can't just go out and start buying stuff. So once you actually get the education, whether it's from me or somebody else, then it comes back to the first part that I brought up, whether you're looking to do it on your own, completely on your own, or if you're looking to do it with partners. So the reason there's a distinction is because it depends on your experience level, how much money you have available, your credit, and things like that. So I've got some students that have started out very small, looking at 10 plexes, 12 plexes, 20 plexes. And I've had other students that, because they're willing to use partners, they're out immediately looking for 50, 100, 150 to 200 unit apartment complexes.
So what do you recommend? Should you start off buying that 10 unit apartment building and start small, or should you go find a group of people to get a bigger deal going?
Yeah. Well, that's actually a pretty good question. One of the things that I recommend is that if you have limited experience, then I think what you should be doing is finding another group of people and investing in someone else's deal first.
Oh,
that
wow.
way you can get your feet wet in someone else's deal. Your only risk at that point is the minimum investment that you make in that particular project. And while you're invested in that project, you can learn from the people that found the project, are managing the project, running the project from day one till whenever the project is over. So I would recommend that you partner up with somebody else first and invest in their deal to gain some of that experience.
That's such a great, I think that is such great advice. And personally, myself, even though I know quite a bit about apartment investing thanks to you and your team and going to your classes, and also having worked in condo conversions before, I still try to find other people who know what they're doing and their markets and invest with them. What do you recommend when somebody's looking for such a deal of something to invest in where somebody else is in control? What do you recommend people look for?
Well, I would recommend that they investigate the deal themselves. They shouldn't just blindly jump into something. They should look into the market where the property is located. They should also research the people that are responsible for handling the deal, whether it's a Google search or going out and finding some private investigator that can actually go out and research their background to see what kind of people they are, make sure it's not a scam, make sure that they've never been arrested or have any felonies, make sure that they're on the up and up and that kind of stuff. And of course, you should always ask for referrals to other people that have invested with them in the past.
So you're really recommending people go all out in figuring out who they're working with. It's not just a surface level, what's your experience, but like literally checking them out with a private investigator.
Well,
wow.
Yeah, potentially, whether it's a private investigator. Sometimes you can find things out pretty quickly on the internet, and sometimes you can't. So if you can find out things by doing a Google search or Yahoo search or something like that, and find out a lot of good information on a person, that may be all that you need to do. But to go one step further, you can usually pay a private investigator a couple $100 to maybe $1,000, and they can do some research on the person just to see what kind of background they have and see if they've ever been involved in any other lawsuits or scams or anything like that.
Okay, that's great. So I have so many questions.
I just opened up a can of worms, didn't I?
Yeah, well, kind of, because if you think about it, when you think about getting into apartment investing, and you go to one of these educational events, the first thing you're thinking about is, how can I do this for myself? And you just pretty much turn that upside down and saying, like, well, don't do it for yourself. Don't get overwhelmed with the process of doing it for yourself. Go out and find somebody who can help you. And not only that, just invest in their deal. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit here, because that's a lot to swallow. So now you have to go out and find not the deal so much, but the person that you want to invest in. So you're looking for something totally different. And then do a background check on them, as opposed to doing due diligence on the property, because you're going to rely on them to do the due diligence on the property. So with that being said, where are you investing these days? Where is Anthony Chara looking for apartments right now?
We are looking in a lot of major markets, and even some of the ancillary markets around the Midwest to the Southeast. There's a lot of really good apartment deals anywhere from the I don't know if you would call it the bread box of America, middle America, right? Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, right in the middle of the United States, the heartland, all the way down to the southeast corner of the country. So anywhere from Eastern Texas, Florida, Tennessee is a really hot market right now. Most of what we're seeing in the apartment markets are that as people are aging, they're all moving further south because it's warmer. So anywhere along the southern border, from Nevada and Arizona, even Southern California. But the problem with Southern California is sometimes the cap rates are so low, it doesn't necessarily make financial sense to buy there, especially if it's your first deal. But anywhere from Nevada and Arizona all the way over across the southern United States to Florida is a very, very hot market right now, including the Carolinas.
So you just mentioned cap rates, and it's funny because I went to a mastermind this weekend, and there were a couple of people in the class who didn't even know what cap rate is and why it was important. So, and then one guy got up and said, "I don't even look at cap rate. That's a waste of my time." So
yeah.
You just mentioned cap rates. I usually look at cap rates. What kind of cap rates are you looking for?
Well, my general rule of thumb is I'm looking for a cap rate that's at least 2 points higher than the rate of what I can borrow money at. So I'm going to talk to mortgage lenders that lend on apartment buildings in the areas that we're looking to invest. If they tell me that the interest rate is, let's say, 4.25%, I'm going to be looking for properties that have a cap rate of at least 6 or 6.25% or higher.
Okay.
That way I know I'm getting the most bang for my buck, and my money's working as hard for me as it possibly can, as opposed to finding a property where I'm borrowing money at 4 or 5% and then investing it in an apartment building that's only giving me 2 or 3% return, which doesn't make sense to me. So
Well,
I do use cap rate, but it's just an indication. It just tells me where I'm at within the market as far as the return that I could potentially make on my money.
So can you tell me can you tell the audience what cap rate means?
Sure. Well, cap rate is actually the return you would get on the property if you bought it all cash. In other words, no loan, no leverage, no nothing. So if you bought an apartment building for $1 million and you bought it in an area where it was at a 7 cap, that means that you would get a 7% rate of return on your $1 million, assuming, again, that you bought it all cash. So you'd get $70,000 left over at the end of the year after all of your operating expenses were paid. There is no mortgage, right? But that's after all the income from all the rents on the apartments, from the laundry income, late fees, things like that. Take out all your operating expenses, something called TIMR, an acronym everybody should memorize. TIMR is taxes, insurance, management, maintenance, utilities, and repair. And once all that's paid, you should have at least $70,000 left over in your pocket at the end of the first year. So it's just
$70,000 in my pocket at the end of the year.
There you go. And so that it's just a way of looking at it. It's kind of like a bank account. If you go to a bank and you put $100,000 in the bank, and the bank tells you they're going to pay you 0.1 or 0.2%, well, at 0.1%, you're going to have $70 left over at the end of the year on a $100,000 amount just sitting in the bank account. Where if you took that same $100,000 and put it into a 7 cap apartment building, you'd have $7,000. So a much, much better rate of return going with apartments than just letting it sit in the bank.
Otherwise, we'd all just put our money in the bank, right?
Exactly. We'd all put our money in the bank and just let the bank make even more money off of our money. Yep.
Best apartment building you've ever purchased? Did I lose you?
You did. Did you ask me a question?
Yes. What's the best apartment building you ever purchased?
What's the best apartment building ever purchased? One that we just purchased in Kansas. We actually bought it. It was 94 units, completely vacant. Actually, there's been a couple that we purchased that have done really well. It was completely vacant, 94 units. We bought it for $311,000, so about $3,000 a door. We put about we put about $1 million into it to fix it up. So we have about $1.4 million into the property. And when we got done with it, it appraised for $2.45 million.
Oh my gosh, are you going to sell that one right away, or are you going to hold on to it and get some cash flow out of it?
Yeah, actually, that one we're going to hold on to. We're in the process of, just actually refinanced to what's called a permanent loan. It went from construction to perm loan, but we're actually looking to hold on to it for a longer period of time because it's cash flowing extremely well.
How are you finding those types of deals? Or is that one of your secrets you can't tell anyone?
No, we can talk about it. It just one of those things where you look on, you create different sources. In some cases, I find deals because my students actually are interested in a particular area of the country. So for whatever reason, they could live there, they could have relatives there, they might like the weather, whatever the case is. They start researching that particular area. They find a property or properties that they like. And then once the numbers work on the property, then one of the next steps that we do is we analyze the market. We want to see what's happening with the economy in the market. Are jobs coming into the market or jobs leaving the market? Is the population expanding? Is the population contracting? And then based on that, what's happening with apartments? Are there a lot of developers coming in that are building a lot of new product? And the reason they're building a lot of new product is because of all the new people that are moving into the area. If we think it's a hot market, we'll start investing in that particular area. So this one we found just because one of my students was looking in this particular area of Kansas, found a great deal. This is actually his second deal in that same market. And he found that deal because of the relationships he created in the market because of the first deal. It was actually an empty property a couple blocks away from his original one, and he did some research to find out who owned it. And he made contact with the owner and asked him if they wanted to sell it, and sure enough, they did, and we got a great deal on it.
So I have so many questions about that very deal itself. Like, so if you buy the property for $311,000, it's 94. Is it total 94 units and all 94 units are vacant? Is that what was the situation?
Correct. 94 units, all 100% vacant. You got it.
Okay. So do you phase it? Was it in how many buildings?
I think there's about 10 or 11 buildings.
Okay. So do you phase the construction so that you can start filling up, the first building and then the second building, or do you bang out all this construction at once?
Yeah, no, we actually start phasing it in. So we'll start on a particular building, get one building up and ready to go. And then once we get that one building up and ready to go, we'll start leasing out that building.
Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool. So Anthony, I ask all of my guests the same question. What books do you recommend these days?
What books do I recommend? Probably the number one would be Think and Grow Rich. I try and read that one at least once a year.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, that one's awesome. It's one of the ones that keeps me focused and keeps me moving forward. I do like the E-Myth book. E-Myth, I do like that one. Let's see what else. Another standard in the industry, of course, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it's one of those things that teaches you about how to become an entrepreneur and think instead of constantly working for someone else, working for yourself and becoming that entrepreneur. And that's, I think, what I am doing this, not only with the teaching that I do, but also with the investing that I do. Very
cool. Very cool. Any parting words?
Yeah. Now's a great time to get into apartment investing. Apartments are rocking all over the country. You do need to be careful, though. There's a lot of major markets around the country that have been going like gangbusters for anywhere from 5 to 7 years now. So it's probably going to start taking a dip and a lull in some of those major markets. But what I would recommend that you do is start looking at some of the ancillary markets. So as an example, the Dallas market has been hot for a very long time. It's probably going to continue to stay hot for a few more years just because of all the jobs that are coming into the Dallas market. But because of that, there's a lot of owners of those properties that want top dollar. So what a lot of my students are doing is, instead of looking right there in the city of Dallas, they're starting to move out to the suburbs to find better deals with higher cap rates so that they can actually get a better return on their investment.
So Anthony, you've said so much. You've made me realize how important an apartment coach is, or some kind of mentor to help buy apartment buildings, because I would never know where to buy an apartment building for $311,000 and then do $1 million in rehab. So I think that's pretty amazing. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach you for some of your services?
Sure. They can start by going to my website, go to apartmentmentors.com, apartmentmentors.com. One of the things that they can do is on the upper right-hand corner of the screen is they can just give us their first name and their email address, and that'll get them into the system. But it'll also start sending them some autoresponders. And the autoresponders are all educational. It talks about things like the cap rate, the TIMR, what I was talking about earlier, the operating expenses, taxes, insurance, management, maintenance, utilities, repair. It talks about other things like debt service coverage ratio. There's also some motivational stuff that comes up. They'll get an email once a week that just talks about apartments and what they need to do to stay focused and stay positive and keep moving forward and doing deals.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anthony. Everybody, today's special guest was Anthony Charter from Apartment Mentors. If you have any questions for him, you're welcome to reach out to him. I'm Jillian Sidoti from crowdfundinglawyers.net, and we'll see you next time on People You Should Know. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Jillian.